My name's Stephen Thomas. I'm the author of a few books. Business Networking for Dummies is probably my, it's the best selling of the three. Instant Networking was my second book, and Win the Room as well, with another book coming out late this year or early next year, depending on how much pressure I put myself under. And I'm going to talk to you about networking. I'm going to talk to you about LinkedIn as well, how to join everything up, how to actually win customers from networking. And really specifically this afternoon, I'm going to talk about how I've won, and you can too, some big corporate clients. I work with the likes of Namecheap. That's the world's second largest domain name registry, easy for me to say. Working with Namecheap throughout May and June of this year. I work with BT, Telecom Plus PLC, who are better known as Utility Warehouse, Lloyds Bank, etc., 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 and a load of names that you won't have heard of. And I've done all of that through networking, through business networking, through going to networking events when we were allowed and when we're allowed again, through going to virtual events just like this one. I attend over the last 6 or 7 years pretty much all of #events, either in real life or virtually, and I always treat them as a networking opportunity. So the big corporate clients I've won have all come from a networking event somewhere, and I'm going to talk about that and how I've done it and how I've achieved it and so on. If you want to ask me any questions about this, if you want to challenge me on anything at all, pop it in the chat and I'll be really, really happy to do it. I'm really, really happy to answer it. That's what I meant to say. I know this is the Pennines Business Show. I'm doing this live and direct from my home in Oxfordshire. So it's really nice to see you all. If you hear the doorbell ringing, if we hear any background noise, I am literally at home. So I hope that doesn't disturb us on the way through. Working from home like the rest of the world, frankly, like the rest of us are doing at the moment. Let's talk about how you actually win business from networking. That's what you're here to listen to. I'm going to talk about it in a particular order, which makes a load of sense to me because I've reverse engineered what I've done over the years. And what I've done over the years is over 1,500 networking events, over 50 networking events since we all went virtual. I've spoken at over 400 events in the UK and Europe, and picked all of that up from the networking events that I've been to. Every big opportunity starts with a little conversation. So let's start off by talking about how I start conversations. Now, sort of interestingly to me, what we're going to talk about first is what we do before networking events. I'm trying to work out whether it's that way around for you or that way around for you, but before networking events, that looks better. Let's talk about what I do before networking events, because I have made a career in the last 15 years or so of only ever turning up to events where people already know me. So I've engineered a situation of helping people to get to know me before I arrive at a networking event. Whatever flavor of networking you go to, we talk about a couple of things. You'll have heard the expression know, like, and trust. You might have heard it expressed as meet, like, know, and trust. But it's all this process after you first met someone or heard of them. That's sort of what we're going to talk about. How you get to that stage where that person trusts you to the extent that they will either refer business to you or actually do business with you. That's what we're going to talk about this afternoon. But that starts before the networking event. Here's where so many people go wrong. People think that the networking event, that success from networking is all about turning up and delivering a really powerful networking introduction. It's not an elevator pitch. We'll talk about that in a minute. People think it's all about turning up and delivering a particularly powerful networking introduction. It's not. That's important. We'll talk about that. But what you do before and after the event is even more important. What I do before any networking event, and I've been doing it for 15 years now, is put content out there on the internet. When I'm talking about content, I mean written articles where I give networking advice. I was doing all of this before I wrote the book. This is one of the reasons I was asked to write the book. I put videos out there with helpful networking content. I'll even snip parts of this keynote and put them out on LinkedIn next week. I put a podcast out there. I appear on other people's podcasts. I appear at other people's shows. I'm constantly putting content out there, talking to people about networking, giving value, so that when I turn up at an event, there's a really big chance that someone will say, oh, I know you, I've read your stuff on LinkedIn. And I've been doing that for 15 years. Just think of how powerful that is, that I can walk into an event anywhere in the UK and at least a few people feel like they know me. I'm going to come back to that expression in a minute. People feel like they already know me. Every big opportunity starts with a little conversation. And what I choose to do is start the conversations before I go to networking events. I'm constantly engaging with people on LinkedIn, for example. By the way, if you're live here this afternoon and you fancy connecting with me on LinkedIn and continuing the conversation afterwards, there's your opportunity. A link to my LinkedIn into the chat box. I start conversations on LinkedIn by putting articles out there, by putting content out there, by putting videos out there. The other way that I start conversations on LinkedIn is that I go and look for the people that I want to talk to, either the companies I want to engage with or the types of businesses I want to engage with. And I'll talk about that. Very often I find the type of people that I want to engage with, the type of people that I'd like to work with, and go and connect with them on LinkedIn. I don't immediately try and sell to them. I just connect with them. Then I look for what they're posting on LinkedIn. Here's what a load of people do. A load of people go on LinkedIn and expect everyone else to look at us. What I do first is put my time and energy into looking at them. Go and looking at what they're posting, going looking at the content that they're posting out there, and actually commenting. This is how I type, commenting on it, liking it, sharing it if appropriate. Just think about that for a second. If I've put effort into engaging with someone else, in being on their LinkedIn timeline, how do you think they will approach me or react to me when I attend a networking event that they're at, when I pop up at a show that they're at, or so on? I'm going to come back to a load of this when we come to after the networking event. I engage with people and I put helpful content out there. Anyone can do the same. The real opportunity is that most people won't bother. The real opportunity, as loads of people have said to me over the years, is that it sounds like a lot of hard work. People ask me how I get big speaking gigs, but then I explain to them I find the people who run speaking gigs, I connect with them, I engage with them on LinkedIn, and people say, well, that sounds like a bit of hard work. Let's talk about how I'm here this afternoon. Years and years ago, really early on in my speaking career, and it's why I'm still here today, I heard about a guy called Andrew Charlton, who owns a company called #Events, who ran shows in the northeast of England. I'm in Oxfordshire. Connected with him online on Facebook as it goes, and then found out that he was going to be networking up around Newcastle in the northeast. Booked myself a speaking slot at a networking event up there and went up there to meet him, and ended up speaking at a load of his events, including this one, and picking up a load of paid speaking opportunities as a result of that. I engaged with Andrew first. I went up to actually meet him face to face. Even in these virtual times, once we're back being able to meet people, I'll still do a bit of that as well, because I still think that rocks. The real opportunity is that most people won't bother. People have asked me over the years if I can introduce them to Andrew Charlton. I've done that, and they've never even bothered following up, and certainly haven't bothered going to see him. I put in the effort to get to know the guy. He then became confident, having seen me speak, to put him on a limited number of events, and now we've got a 7 or 8 year working relationship together. Put the effort in before you get to the networking events. When you're at the networking event, this becomes really important. Firstly, actually, by the way, I'm here to talk about networking. Do go to networking events, attend events like this, go to the many networking events that you can attend online, for example. You can attend virtual events anywhere in the world now. When you're at the networking event, the most important thing to remember is that everyone else attended that networking event for the sake of their business, not for the sake of your business. Think about it. Why did you come here today? You might have come here to hear some speakers. You might have come here to do business with other people. You came for the sake of yourself and your business. That's why we attend networking events. We believe that we're going to get something positive out of it for ourselves. So think about that when you enter the room. If I organized a meeting with you to sell you my services, if we talked about that over the phone and I then arrived at wherever your offices are in the UK and sat down and had a meeting with you and told you it was because I wanted to pitch my services to you, you would be expecting to listen to me, pitch my services to you and start to talk to you about that. But people expect to have the same conversations when they go to a networking event, when actually the other people turned up at the networking event not to buy from you, they turned up to sell their stuff. Once you get your head around that everyone else is in the room for the sake of their business, that's when the real magic starts to happen. That's why it's not an elevator pitch. People ask me about networking and what do I say to people when I meet them, for example. I set the bar very, very low when I go to networking events. I am English, so if I turn up at a real life event, I will, the first thing I'll probably ask is where the tea is, and possibly where the toilets are as well, depending on how far I've driven. But all I'm looking to do is start conversations with people. What I'm not looking to do is suddenly dump loads of information about my business over them. Most of the 1,500 or so networking events I've been to have been breakfast networking events. As soon as people turn up at 7:30 or 8 o'clock in the morning, I genuinely don't believe that they want to walk in the door and have me immediately pitch to them. And yet, that's how loads of people think that they should treat networking, that they should treat every conversation like a pitch. If I was selling something to you, if I was selling something to Andrew Charlton, if we had that meeting, that would be a pitch. But that's a few conversations down the line. When I attend a networking event, even if I've already engaged with the people beforehand, as we talked about, I'm there to start conversations. Every big opportunity starts with a little conversation. So what I'm looking to do when I walk in the room is start those conversations. Those conversations can be about anything, but what I typically do at a networking event is invite people to tell me all about them. I love finding out about other people. My two grandfathers, one was a barber, one was a butcher. Their real jobs were finding out about their customers, finding out about other people. Because actually, the more that you know about other people, A, it's cool, it's fun. You find out about other people's families and kids and lives and so on. Find out that other people have got the same interest in music as you, or nobody's got the same interest or the same taste in shirts as me, but you find out that other people have got something in common with you. It gives you something else to take forward in the conversation. I tend to go to a networking event and learn about the other people in the room. That's how I start conversations. What I do absolutely religiously is collect business cards when I'm at the event. Just looking over here for a prop I should have had on the desk. When I'm at a virtual networking event, just by the way, let's find the right page. I have a very technologically advanced notepad and pen next to my desk, and I write down the name of the people that I've met at the event, and then they are ticked off, they're crossed through because I've gone and connected with them on LinkedIn after the event. I make absolutely sure that I have the names of the people that I've met, either in a physical business card. What's going to happen to them when we go back to real life? No one's used any for a year. Apologies to the printers in the room. I'm sure they'll make a comeback. And in virtual networking events, I write down people's names. Really old-fashioned, but it means I can go and connect with them on LinkedIn afterwards. When you do the formal stand up and introduce yourself bit of networking, the 60-second or 40 seconds introduction, ditch the elevator pitch. It's not about broadcasting exactly what you do. If you think about it, what you really want to do at a networking event is give people enough that some of them want to find out more about you. And if you start to join this up, if you put loads of content out there beforehand, if you turn up at the networking event and are pleasant to people, find out about other people. Some of them feel like they already know you because you've put content out there that they've read, you've engaged with them online, and then you deliver an introduction which just grabs people's interest. Some of those people will be interested enough to want to find out more. Every big opportunity starts with a little conversation. Your introduction at the networking event is very often the start of that conversation. Think about what those people in the room are buying rather than what you're selling. Think about what they're buying rather than what you're selling. What I so often see people do in their networking introduction is stand up and give a huge 60-second list of features about what they're selling. But that's different to what the people in the room are buying. My networking introduction is full of outcomes. This is what people get if they work with me, not this is how I work. There's a real marked difference. I'm on my second career, I guess. My first career was 20 years as an estate agent here in Oxfordshire and then in London as well. We had a reputation in my firm that we sold probate properties. We sold houses that people had died and left in an estate. And in order to do that, we had to have a load of knowledge. We had to have a load of knowledge about the legal process. It's different with a probate property. We had to have a load of knowledge about the planning processes and planning regulations here in Oxfordshire, because very often if someone's lived in a house for years, you're going to demolish it and probably build something else there to get the most money for the beneficiaries of the will. We had to have a load of knowledge and empathy in dealing with families in that situation. But that's not what we sold. That's not what I would tell you if you were asking me about our services, because actually we got more money for a probate sale than any other estate agent. That's all that people needed to know to start the conversation. If I stood up at a networking event, I wouldn't tell people my knowledge about planning regulations in West Oxfordshire. Still got it. I wouldn't tell people all about that because that's not of interest to you. That's not what you're buying. It's what I'm selling. When I stand up and deliver my networking introduction, I explain to people that if they work with me, they'll win more sales through networking. I explain to people that I'll sharpen up the process for them. I explain to people, this is what someone who's worked with me has said about me afterwards. What I'm talking about is what they're buying, the results. When you deliver your networking introduction, which isn't an elevator pitch, think about what the other people in the room are buying and just give them enough that they want to find out more. So let's think about it. I've put a load of content out there so that people feel like they already know me. I've started going to networking events. I've delivered my 60-second introduction so that people want to get to know me. I've done clever things like invited you people to connect with me on LinkedIn. It's just over there as I look at it. And the reason that I do that is so that this little conversation that I've started, we can continue after the event. We can continue the conversation. Because once we're out of the networking event, I want to keep in touch with you. And I'd rather hope if you've liked what I've had to say this afternoon, that you'll want to keep in touch with us as well, because I put loads more content out there. Now, this is where we get to how it works for corporate bodies. The more and more I put myself out there at networking, which then builds my LinkedIn profile, my LinkedIn connections, the more content I put out there as well. I'm also connecting and going to networking events where I find the sort of big companies and corporate entities that I want to deal with. What I'm doing here this afternoon in speaking, this gives me a wee bit more credibility. It also shows that I've got the video footage to use here afterwards, which I can then put on LinkedIn. And guess what? The more and more that I do of that, the more I go and connect with the type of corporate individuals, HR directors, training directors, managing directors that I want to do business with, the more of them start to spot me. So I put videos out there of me speaking. I put networking advice out there. People start to spot me. And then, because of all of the content that I've put out there, people feel like they already know me. We talked about this in terms of going to networking events earlier on. I spoke for 3 years for the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants. I spoke at their Members in Practice conference for 3 years on the go here in the UK. When I asked the committee, because it's a committee-led organization, why they booked me, they said that they were recommended loads of speakers because their committee is made up of members. The members go networking, they find people. Someone had seen me speak at a networking event, had referred me up the chain to the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants Committee, and they felt like they already knew me because they went and did something which people are doing about you. They went and checked me out online. So whether you've met someone at a networking event or whether you've been referred to that to a person, they will probably check you out online. They'll go and check you out on LinkedIn. They may check you out on Instagram these days, Facebook, Twitter, your own website, Medium, wherever it happens to be. But people are checking you out online. Google, by the way, the 0 moment of truth, how people make decisions in 2021. So that corporate entity, the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants, checked me out online. They saw videos of me talking to camera like this, as well as professionally shot videos of me on stage, written articles, that's how I type, giving people helpful hints about networking, questions and answers, which we're going to do any second now, so that when they went to book me for their annual conference, they felt like they already knew me. Meet, like, know, trust, or know, like, and trust. What I had done is built the trust up massively by not only being visible to them, but by making sure that they could see me doing the thing that they were about to pay me for, that they could see that I had knowledge in that field. If you've got any questions as we head towards the last 8 or 9 minutes of this, pop them in the chat, and I'll answer them in a minute. If you want to do a live Q&A with me on here, I think there's a way of you asking to come on screen. So do that, and I'll spot it when it pops up, and I'll invite you here, and you can ask me any questions. Pop them in the chat. I'll answer them as well if you don't fancy appearing on screen. One of the questions that I get is about how do you follow up with people after a networking event? And I think I've got a different spin on this, because what I do is I get to know people. Once I've met them at networking events, I get to know them. I put helpful content out there. I do events like this where people can attend for free and learn from me. And then I don't hide the till. So many people hide the till. They do all of the other stuff, but they make it really unclear how people actually buy from them. Let me explain what I mean by that. My career started in 1983 working in a shoe shop, Manfield Shoes in Cornmarket Street in Oxford. I'll answer that question in a second. I've just seen it pop up. Thank you. And if you go into any shoe shop or any fashion retailer, if you go into your Marks and Spencers in your local town or whatever your shops are, look up at the ceiling and it will tell you where to pay. It will say pay here. It will tell you where the till is. And yet what so many of us do when we're in business for ourselves is we hide the till. We do all of this stuff and we don't ever tell people what we're selling. So what I do, once I've got to know people, once I've put loads of helpful content out there, firstly, a load of people approach me. But if I've put the effort into getting to know them, I don't hide away from occasionally reaching out to people and saying, in an actual private message or phone call, in 2021, it's perfectly, I've put my phone somewhere else. In 2021, it's still perfectly legal to actually pick up the phone and talk to people. I have no hesitation in saying to people, hey, Andrew Charlton, I've just launched this. I really think it'll be of interest to you. Can we have a 5-minute chat about it? If I've put the effort into getting to know someone, I get a much more positive response to that than if I just send out vague blank messages to people. And occasionally I put adverts out there. You'll see them on LinkedIn, as well as helpful content. I'll occasionally say, I've got this course coming up. I've got this book coming out. I don't hide the till. I show people where they can buy from me. I'm going to answer a couple of the questions that have popped up in the chat. And if you've got any more, please feel free to ask. Andrew Charlton asks, what would you say is the toughest new skill for networking virtually compared to physical events? It's a really good question. There's a couple of answers to this. A load of people still have to get used to dealing with the camera rather than being at a physical event. So, for example, I'll use a pen. If I was at an actual event, so you and me, Andrew, met at For Networking Newcastle Airport. And if I was doing this presentation, then my eyes would be moving around the room, getting eye contact with people in the room. I do this professionally. I know how to and why to get eye contact with people. So when I'm doing this virtually, instead of looking down at the screen, I'm making sure that I constantly talk to the little camera in the corner of my screen, so that it feels to you like I'm maintaining eye contact. It looks to you like I'm engaged. I don't know the psychology behind this, but it somehow fools our brains, because if we're in conversation with people, we like someone to maintain eye contact. I do look away every so often, because if I just stare at you, it's a bit creepy, probably. I also have things copied, ready to paste into the chat box, so that I don't have to be typing all the time. So when I've delivered my 40 or 60 seconds, I can say I put a 30-second networking tip out on Instagram every single day. And if you want to follow me on Instagram and get my 30-second networking tips, they're in the chat box right now. Talking to a camera like this is a different skill to speaking in real life. So I'm not getting the normal audible feedback that I would get from an audience. I've learned to do this now. I've spoken at so many events, but I think virtual networking, talking to the camera, putting things in the chat box, and putting as much effort into it as you would do to a normal event. This is how I dress. This is how I would dress up for a normal event. I've been to the gym this morning. I've not got much else on today apart from this. I've still decided to put effort into this, to dress up for you guys, to actually be here, to be present, to not have any distractions whilst I'm here. It would be so easy. You can always have things on a split screen and do something else, but I choose to be here and be present. So I think one of the biggest skills is actually paying attention, talking to the people in the room rather than ignoring them, and paying attention to the meeting. Alan Irvin asks, in your opinion, Stefan, do you think online networking will maintain this momentum when normal returns? Alan, yeah, I think that it will. I've saved thousands of pounds this year in petrol, as you probably have, as well as everyone has, and the amount of hours I've saved in time. So things will change, undoubtedly. I believe we'll go back to some face-to-face meetings. I've heard some BNI chapters talk about hybrid meetings, where they meet 3 times out of 4 virtually, and then on the 4th event they get together face-to-face. I think that's a brilliant way around it. I do believe, and I'm sort of banking on this for my career as well, frankly, that a load of business conferences will be hybrid. I'm doing I'm doing a seminar for Namecheap, a huge internet domain name registrar, in June. That was recorded in March. It will be available for a month. I think when we go back to real life events, there will be the live event if you want to get there and network with people and so on. And if you want to see the speakers, there will also be virtual passes. That's my belief. So I think now we've all got used to using Zoom, Alan. We'll all carry on doing it. Other platforms exist. Sorry, I'm not on Zoom this afternoon, am I? But I think there will still be momentum, because we will all want to have this opportunity to use our time in a more effective way. But people will want to go back to real life as well. Am I related to Bruce? Asked Ray Locke. I don't know which Bruce you're talking about, so I don't think I don't think I am. I'm not related to anyone called Bruce, as far as I know. The good looking Bruce McLean, the good looking. Oh, now I see it, Bruce. Yes. Yeah, we're brothers, to answer the question. So yes, Bruce, sorry, I didn't realize who we were talking about. Listen, I'm coming to the end of my time here. Yeah, 1:49, and I don't want to hold up the speakers later on. What I would say, if you want to continue the conversation, please come and connect with me on LinkedIn. I will just take the opportunity of popping my LinkedIn connection details down there. So please do connect with me on LinkedIn. We can continue the conversation there. I will really look forward to keeping in touch with you. Let me tell you what I fell in love with about networking. I've done about 1,500 networking events, about 400 speaking events, about 50 virtual speaking events. In any other sales event, in any other sales opportunity, sales environment, I always got told that you just get one chance to make an impression. But what I've fallen in love with about this is that this was somewhere where I got a second chance, or even these days a 1,500th chance to make an impression. Thank you so much for spending the last half hour or so with me. I really hope you got value out of that. Thanks for coming along to the Pennines Business Show. It's been great to interact with you. And if you want to continue the conversation, connect with me on LinkedIn and we'll do it there. Thank you very much indeed.